Today I want to talk about the idea of a field of consciousness, or a non-local consciousness, meaning that consciousness doesn't come from our brains, but consciousness is generated somewhere else, and our brains are kind of like a receiver for that consciousness, those signals of consciousness. And the way I've described this in the past is, imagine you have a radio tuner, and it has all the little marks in there. But this is like a huge radio tuner, so it has maybe a billion different things that you could tune into. And these are like different aspects of personality or consciousness or things like that. And so at any one time, I'm just pulling a number out of the air, but let's say we're tuned into 100 of those. And so there's this whole billion of them out there that are potentials that we could tune into, but we only tune into about 100 because we don't need to be everything, and some things are, not compatible necessarily. So we only tune into what we need to in order to be conscious beings. And this kind of makes sense if you listen to Donald Hoffman and the way he says that we only evolved to see reality as we need. This would also make sense in those in that idea, because we would, as say these little microbes or single cell organisms, if one of them somehow tapped into this field of consciousness, then it would have an advantage of some sort over its competitors. And so that would become something that would have adapted over time, and we would have gotten better and better at connecting to this field of consciousness. So when I've talked about this before, I was talking about it in relation to soulmates and best friends and things like that. So I meet somebody and we really hit it off. Number one, before I go any further, if you like someone immediately, I don't mean like necessarily relationship or whatever, but if you're like super drawn to somebody immediately, it could be a good sign or it could be a bad sign. I recommend anytime that happens, anytime you're like, oh my God, this is the best person ever, back off a little bit. Take a look at why it is that you're attracted to them. But that's a whole nother story. That's just a warning from someone who's had that problem a number of times and run into bad people. So in the idea of soulmates and best friends, we do meet these people that we just connect with immediately. We've got, similar interests, similar personality type, whatever it might be. So the idea there is that I meet this other person and they're tuned into some of these same aspects of the universal consciousness, this field of consciousness. So their brain is attuned to similar parts of that field as mine is. So we might have 10 things in common or 20 things in common out of the 100 that we're each tuned into. And that might be an indicator that, hey, we'd be very compatible. We'd be good friends, mates, whatever. So those people that do not have like any similarities in what they connect to, those are people that we meet and we're like, why are you even here? No, just kidding. But we don't really get along with them. They are very different people. We might say they're in a different place than we are. Nothing wrong with that. And so that's just one way to think about it with the field of consciousness and how we tune in. So it's that big radio tuner, and it's got all these different things that you can tune into. Well, another aspect of that I want to talk about is like presets on the radio dial, so to speak. So you get into a car, maybe like a new car or a rental, or however you want to put that analogy. So you push one of the buttons and, a particular type of music comes on, country or classical or something like that. And that's kind of what it's like for us, because there is this thing called epigenetics. So if you go back in time, like say my grandma and grandpa, they lived through the Depression here in the U.S. And I'm not sure if that was global or not. Doesn't matter. But here in the U.S., they lived through the Depression. And so they really learned to, save as much as you can, to kind of hoard things, to be very frugal. And So that is actually an aspect that has been transferred to me. It came through my father. And so he has some of that too. He likes to hold on to things. He kind of has this mindset about money. If you're listening, don't take it as a negative, you know better. So it's not really something to worry about so much as it's something to recognize as a preset. You might have a great preset. You might have a preset that says you are worth billions of dollars and you can go out there and do whatever you want and make tons of money. Fantastic. That might be a preset that you want to keep. And so these epigenetics, they follow us around, and they're kind of like I said, that preset, but it's like the brain becomes tuned to that particular frequency. And so we don't necessarily want that. I mean, when I first get my car, I might think that the channel that plays all Slayer all day is like the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, yeah. But after a while, I'm like, okay, so the Slayer station not working for me so much. I'm gonna switch over to something else. And so that's the thing. How do we do that? And I can still use that analogy of getting into a car and having those presets already there. And so when you want to change the preset, generally what you do is, you find the station that you want. And number one, you say, I don't want this station anymore. Number two, you find the station that you want. Then usually you hold the button for that preset for a minute. Hold on to it and you wait for it to make a little beep sound, and that indicates that you have indeed updated that channel. Not quite as clear with our brain, but it's a similar concept, because we want to take some conscious intent. And so we say, sorry, it's very hot in here, that's why I'm dressed like this. I want to take some conscious intent and say, I want to change this preset. I don't want to be this aspect anymore. I want to be this aspect over here. And so the way we do that for us, that holding the button for 3 seconds for us, is actually saying to our subconscious mind, repeating what it is that we want. So we have to say over and over and over again to our subconscious mind that we want to be this thing. And I usually try to keep these positive, I say, and present. So like if it's money that you want, it's kind of like the idea of an affirmation. You say, money comes to me quickly all the time. Money comes to me from many sources. So you say it as if it's happening. You start to feel it as if it's happening. And you can do that with aspects of your personality. So you can change some habits that might do that. That might be pushing that button. You can, like I said, do the affirmations. That's another way that you're pushing that button. And so then you get the stations, you start tuning in to the stations that you prefer, and those become your presets. And the more and more you can do this, the more presets that you have consciously chosen, the, shall we say, more pleasant life can be, as opposed to pushing through the presets and all of a sudden, you come across the Slayer station or the Yoko Ono station and you're like, oh my God, what is going on here? So make that conscious choice. Choose what you want to be tuned into. Think of it as this field of possibilities, this field of basically unlimited personality changes that can be made. And you can have any of them, absolutely. You just make the intent to do it. You make the honest intent. You decide that's really what you want. Go make it happen. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And as always, please like and